Hello, my name is Tim Rogers. I'm the Director of Admissions here at the American University of Paris. Welcome to Convocation, the opening of the new academic year. It's not unusual in a university entering class to see students speaking, for example, Spanish, Swedish, Amharic, and English, but in the same student, welcome to AUP. This year, 59% of new degree-seeking undergraduates speak 2 or more languages, and 27% of graduate students speak 3 or more languages. Students come from all 4 corners of the world and are here in Paris, having endured the miseries of literally tens of thousands of PCR and lateral flow tests, visa interviews, currency fluctuations, and vaccinations. But you made it, and so did our faculty. We welcome new students from 6 continents and 50 countries, including students from Albania, Cameroon, Colombia, our first Cuban in 12 years, Gabon, India, Iran, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Mexico, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Peru, Poland, Serbia, and they only applied yesterday, South Africa, Sweden, Switzerland, Ukraine, and the UK. We've even got French and American students. To welcome you physically to campus last week and to see you without the frame of an iPhone, a desktop monitor, or on a Zoom or Teams call, even if none of the entering class did what they were told to do on their pre-arrival checklist, the clue is in the use of the word pre, was one of the highlights of my professional career. We begin this academic year with a renewed sense of purpose and mission. This is the year every member of staff and faculty has waited for 18 months. Thank you for making it through unprecedented and unpredictable times. It says much about a student who decides to study in another city, in the same country, when times are calm and collected. It says something entirely different about someone who is willing to travel to the other side of the world to begin or continue their university education when times are completely turned on their head. You are truly a very special group of students. So from the admissions office, I say welcome and welcome back to all of you. Enjoy and make the most of the coming days, weeks, months, and years. Global exploring has never felt so good. I now pass this ceremony over to the President of the University, Celeste Schenck.
"30 degrees in Paris today. Maybe not the day for regalia. Woof. As we gather in person in Paris today, and out there in the worldwide AUP community, thanks to the wonders of technology, I want to begin by saluting this particular group of first-year, visiting, transfer, and graduate students who are entering the American University of Paris exactly 60 years after the founding class. I also want to greet AUP's global family, members of the Board of Trustees, faculty and staff, parents, friends, our US-based admissions and advancement staffs, and alumni tuning in from all over the world, who are joining us to welcome you and celebrate with us the start of your academic lives at AUP. Making the choice to come, despite all the obstacles in the way, makes each of you sitting before me and each of you watching on your screens a very special kind of AUP explorer. As we open our 60th year today in the American Church of Paris Sanctuary, which was the rented campus of the American College of Paris in 1961, I am thinking today of Lloyd Delameter, our visionary founder, standing on the steps of the historic France Amérique building, where we will be celebrating our 60th anniversary in October. In his autobiography, he described the much-awaited opening day of the college, at which he, in his own words, quote, lifted a champagne glass to toast the inaugural class and symbolically all classes to come. His spirit is with us today, and his gesture forward to each of you seated here marks this convocation. Dr. Delameter had a vision for an American university in Paris that would one day have branches across all the capitals of Europe. We have become what Lloyd Delameter dreamed, welcoming students from 100 nationalities and founding a consortium of 30 American universities abroad. I cannot impress upon you enough the fragility of that initial founding, which Lloyd and his wife Marie, with their 2 young daughters, one of whom teaches at AUP still today, what they achieved with the sheer power of their belief. Their sacrifices to found this university has often given me perspective on current struggles, even COVID, and made me grateful to inherit the university he envisioned and to have the privilege with my colleagues of stewarding its growth. It is my great honor to open formally the 21-22 academic year. This year, begun in the shadow of COVID, as we all know, is still like none other, and we are prepared for its inevitable uncertainties and challenges, supported by a highly competent and centralized French public health authority that will achieve this week full vaccination of the 80% full vaccination of 80% of the entire population of France over the age of 12. But today, I don't want to talk about masks and social distancing and vaccinations, about which you've heard a lot from us and will hear much more. While we all pledge this year to protect our community, the very special bubble that is AUP, in our every choice and repeated commitment to healthy behavior, we are also going to be engaging wholeheartedly in the activities that make universities the unparalleled learning environments that they are. Fierce marketplaces of ideas, often contradictory, stages for civil exchanges, sometimes heated and passionate, and places of personal development and growth for anyone who is a full participant in his or her education. This is what we want for you. As we celebrate the university's 60th anniversary this year, marking its first convocation in 1961 by echoing it in 2021, we celebrate 60 years of privileged status for AUP, that of being the only foreign accredited comprehensive university on French soil for over half a century. We will not fail to take the measure of what's been accomplished by a devoted boards, leadership, faculty, and staff during this historical period of building the modern AUP, but we are also looking forward. We will be talking a lot this year about where AUP, a university perpetually en marche, if you will forgive me, is going to go next. With a bold new strategic plan in hand, with a new curriculum for the 21st century currently being implemented, with a new Center for the Arts opening this fall, with plans in hand to house all of our students, ourselves, and a fully integrated upgrade of all of our information systems in the works, with COVID more or less safely behind us and stronger than ever application numbers before us, AUP is poised for yet more loft. Our theme for the 60th anniversary is not just AUP's past and future. We are interested, to borrow the title of journalist Dan Rather's latest book, in what unites us. As members of the AUP community, past and present, across all of our differences in language, nationality, ideology, culture, ethnicity, race, sexual identity, and faith. To that end, we will be focusing on student and alumni, faculty, and staff ideas about what constitutes AUP community or the AUP experience, about what connects us to each other, about the ways in which we are all working steadfastly to perfect not just our own union here in Paris, but that of communities across the globe, wherever we find ourselves. To get a sense of that, just pick up the beautiful 60th anniversary edition of the AUP magazine, published today. At a moment when political divisions are increasingly entrenched, when we can no longer rely on a shared sense of reality about which we might hold differing opinions, it is critical that we honor the notion that others' ideas are important, that they bear within them the seeds of our own transformation if we take them seriously, that while we are always free to reject ideas once we have entertained them, exposure to the worldview of others is the most likely thing to provoke our own growth as human beings. AUP graduates would likely agree that their development was enhanced by having learned from the ideas of students vastly different from themselves, by taking on new ideas for measure, by allowing themselves to be influenced by the ideas of others. Without such an openness to challenging ideas, we cannot learn. Such a stance of radical openness to the ideas of another go far beyond somewhat trite and traditional notions of tolerance. Such a stance of radical openness is an imperative in an era of fake news and words that kill. You'll hear more about this from faculty speaker Jayson Harsin in just a moment. Specialists in conflict resolution know that we must begin with what we have in common, with what we share with other citizens, friends, enemies, with other suffering human beings in this complex world. A great deal can be accomplished, especially within the sphere of learning, if we start with what we can agree on. A typical AUP student exposed from the start to the diversity of the AUP classroom, the lateral learning that occurs amongst peers in such a setting, the loving facilitation of the classroom by faculty who are as much global explorers as their students, has learned to find first what unites us among such diversity and to define and then redefine themselves accordingly. This is a life skill that many members of our community have taken from AUP into their whole professional and personal lives, and that they speak about 60 years later. One of the outcomes of an AUP education is the capacity to culturally translate across borders, to feel at home in the world, and to know how to invite others into a conversation, an argument, an institution or a club, a set of political ideas, a community or a home. AUP's 60th anniversary will also provide an opportunity to invite members of our worldwide community to have such conversations with each other about what we have in common and what that has to do with the common good. In a year when we have inducted a number of AUP alumni onto the Board of Trustees, I will be turning to our alumni, listening, I hope, out in the cyber field, first to celebrate this big birthday in small gatherings across the planet, champagne oblige, but also to support your alma mater in all the ways that matter, from mentoring current students to donating to our endowed scholarship funds, paying forward the gift of an AUP education to the generations that have followed you, like the ones sitting in the church or watching on their screens today. Here's an example of what such generosity makes possible. This year, as we open our Montessori Center for the Arts, we will be adding to our campus 2 stunning natural light studios with 4-meter ceilings, 2 state-of-the-art film and art history classrooms, a lithography lab, student exhibition spaces, and the Olivia de Havilland Theater named in honor of the legendary actress, AUP mother, and board member. The nearly 400% growth of art history and the fine arts in recent years, the ascent of film studies as one of our 2 fastest growing majors, has made dedicated space for the plastic and performing arts absolutely mission critical. We will also be launching Film at AUP, a virtual institute within the walls of the new center that will put filmmaking across borders and cross-border understanding at the center of the student learning experience. If you've walked across the AUP campus of late, if you've walked through our galleries and buildings, you have seen how the very democratic nature of the arts binds us together by transcending cultural, linguistic, national, and even ideological boundaries to remind us of just how human and alike we really are, despite our apparent differences. Perhaps our most important ongoing endeavor at AUP is the renewal of the curriculum. Our Provost, William Fisher, from whom you will be hearing next, An anthropologist who taught at Columbia, Harvard, and Clark University, is leading, along with our faculty, the work of integrating all the parts of our 21st century hybrid, liberal arts, and vocationally preparatory and holistic curriculum, the better to help our students navigate new pathways that bring together their intellectual interests and their personal passions. This in ways that will unite us, help the world heal its considerable wounds, and bring a shared future within reach. I invite each of you, members of this new entering 60th class, to come inside the remarkable space of learning that is the American University in Paris, in which students learn as much from each other, as much from the experience of living in a country that is not their own, as they do from their courses. I exhort you to come in with a curious mind, with the resolve to have permeable boundaries, to be open to influence, to entertain good ideas wherever they come from, to be willing always to question your own assumptions. May you, the members of our 60th entering class, make the sometime discomfort of being not at home into a pearl, becoming in the process someone on whom nothing is lost, no experience, no exchange, no relationship, and no opportunity to become, in your time with us, the best possible version of yourself. Provost Fisher.
Thank you, President Schenck. Welcome to everyone here and those of you who are joining us online. Convocation is an opportunity to reinforce for all of us that we're part of a community of learning, a community of personal growth, and of responsibility to one another. I'm personally thrilled to be back at AUP and excited as we begin this next semester. I've got 3 specific tasks this afternoon. First, as the Chief Academic Officer of AUP, it's my honor and privilege to officially open the 2021-22 academic year. As part of this, I want to welcome the new incoming students, the new members of faculty, new members of staff, as well as welcome back continuing students, faculty, and staff. With this convocation, we now are on our way into the new academic year. This can be an especially exciting time for incoming students embarking on new educational pathways, and also exciting for continuing students who are reaching new milestones in their own pathways. These journeys are exciting, though often not without their challenges, and I want to emphasize that sometimes the most valuable educational pathways are often the unexpected, and at times your pathway can be full of the unexpected and even uncertainty. You may find this semester or during this year that you'll find a year full of unexpected turns. Certainly the last 2 years have taught us to be prepared for anything and for everything. Your educational journeys this year may take you to unexpected places. You may encounter unexpected obstacles. You may be uncertain about your choices, your direction, or your path. But remember that your advisors, your mentors, your teachers are all there to help you navigate your way, to help you interpret the signpost, and to help you remain prepared for what comes ahead. While this world we live in sometimes seems to get increasingly stranger, I'm still excited by so many things, so many new people to meet, so many goals to achieve. With convocation comes this whole feeling of renewed energy, a sense that anything is possible, that we can achieve anything we want to together. The thrill of taking new steps along our individual and our collective journeys. The media these days is full of commentaries about what a challenging and overwhelmingly unpredictable time this is to be going to college and to university. But the truth is, this is a really amazing time to go to university. You are particularly fortunate. You go to school at a time when we have to communicate wearing masks, we have to sit in designated distances from one another in the classroom. You're sometimes in classrooms where your peers or even your professor is attending remotely. But the benefit of this is that all of these constraints force us to pay more attention to how we listen to others, how we overcome communication obstacles, and the diverse ways in which we can more intentionally build an educational community. You're entering university studies at a time when your professors are continuing to re-examine everything they previously thought they knew about how to teach and how students learn. It's a time of more experimentation and the application of more intentional, new, and effective methodologies. So welcome to AUP, welcome back to AUP as we open the 2021-22 academic year. An additional privilege of mine today is to present the 2021 Faculty Awards, which were decided at the end of the spring 2021 semester. The award winners are selected by a committee of peers, and the awardees are chosen from a pool of nominated candidates who have excelled in a variety of fields. There were a great deal of deserving nominees for the 2021 Award for Research and Publications, and congratulations is due to all of these nominees. Their productivity is a tremendous testament to the excellence and to the resilience of the AUP faculty. The 2021 Award for Research and Publications goes to Professor Amanda Dennis, who published 2 quite different books. This is an unusual achievement even at AUP, where we have many colleagues who achieve a great deal in various fields. Bellevue Literary Press published Amanda's first novel, Her Here, a remarkable work covering many important contemporary themes. And Edinburgh University published Amanda's important work on Samuel Beckett that draws on her expertise in phenomenology. The 2021 Award for Innovation in Interdisciplinary Study goes to Professor Claudia Roda. Claudia led extremely productive campus-wide discussions about data science at AUP during 2020-21. She designed and hosted workshops with a large and diverse collection of faculty members representing most departments and research centers. Additionally, Claudia, in collaboration with Professor Susan Perry, developed a new master's degree in human rights and data science. The 2021 Award for Innovation in Instructional Design recognizes 2 separate projects, one by Professor Robert Earhart and the second by Professors Charles Talcott and Georgi Stoyanov. Robert Earhart redesigned his course in financial management to integrate student learning with a live NGO consulting project. Not only did he design a successful live consulting experience, he also, because of course scheduling difficulties due to COVID, reconfigured the class into a dual-level undergraduate-graduate offering, seamlessly incorporating 5 undergraduate international finance majors into the master's level group. Charles Talcott and Georgi Stoyanov's course, Digital Toolkit, blazes the trail for AUP's new approach to global liberal education by combining skills in critical media studies with computer science. It's designed to help students develop their own projects and to use digital tools in creative and practical ways linked to their liberal arts curriculum. Congratulations, Amanda, Claudia, Robert, Charles, and Georgi. I look forward to partnering with all of you in the year ahead as we work together to advance the mission of the American University of Paris. Now it's my honor to introduce our faculty speaker for Convocation, Professor Jayson Harsin. Jayson has been the chair of the Philosophy, Theory, and Critique Research Division of the International Communication Association. He's the former chair of AUP's Communication, Media, and Culture Department. He is a frequent invited expert speaker on post-truth politics and disinformation. He's been a guest on BBC programs and featured on major news outlets such as Le Monde and Mediapart. He's been the editor of special journal issues and is the author of over 40 academic articles and book chapters. He's recently recognized for the most read and downloaded article on COVID and post-truth in the Journal of European Cultural Studies, and that's been featured as a recommended reading on the World Health Organization website. Jayson's research sits at the intersection of democracy, communication, and media studies, and his comments today draw from his pioneering research that critically examines the intersection of promotional culture, political attention, the attention economy, new communication technologies, and post-truth. So let me welcome Jayson Harsin to the podium. Please give him your attention.
Thank you, Provost Fisher, President Schenck, and the students for this invitation to speak. It's part of this speech genre, but it would probably be irresponsible if I didn't begin by reminding you of the profoundly vexing challenges staring us in the face. In view of them, college is more than a rite of passage into adulthood. They show that it is actually a resource for survival. A report last year by University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership declared, in utter seriousness, that there is a high likelihood of human civilization coming to an end in 2050 if action is not taken to curb climate change. Professors Piani and Berg will help you comprehend the reasoning behind such a shocking claim, I'm sure. Other prominent researchers have been making similar claims for years, such as Britain's world-class astronomer Sir Martin Rees, who predicted in 2003 that humans had a 50-50 chance of surviving the 21st century. Meanwhile, billionaires of my generation respond by taking joyrides into outer space, as Jeff Bezos did recently. Crises like climate change, global terrorism, and the COVID pandemic are bound up with communication technologies and functional problems of contemporary democracies. What do the experts in that particular area have to say about the future? This year, the Pew Research Center in the U.S. interviewed nearly 1,000 technology innovators and developers, business and policy leaders, researchers and activists for predictions about life and technology post-COVID. Quote, their broad and nearly universal view is that people's relationship with technology will deepen as larger segments of the population come to rely on more digital connections for work, education, healthcare, daily commercial transactions, and essential social interactions. A number describe this as a tele-everything world. They also have many worries we should heed. As the global pandemic unfolds, experts fear growing social and racial inequality, worsening security and privacy, and the further spread of misinformation. The tech-advantaged, that is to say advanced tech-educated, enjoy more advantages. The disadvantaged fall further behind. Concerns particularly focus on the growing power of technology firms like Facebook. Many suggested solutions have a double-edged quality because they threaten civil liberties. Let us equally, though, heed their hopes. Quote, experts urge that calls for social justice be heeded and that technology design focus on human well-being. People have the chance now to reconfigure major systems such as the structure of capitalism, education, healthcare, and workplaces. I'm still quoting, this isn't me. Advances in technologies such as artificial intelligence, smart cities, data analytics, and virtual reality could make all systems safer, more humane, and more helpfully productive. Better communication and more accurate information can dramatically improve emergency responses in crises and alleviate suffering, they write. On the communication technology part, let me zoom in on the very basic level of our relationship to it, with some facts that are increasingly part of the panic at worst, an object of serious public and academic reflection at best. Spoiler, this is also the way my attention and ubiquitous media course starts. In an article this year in Philosophy and Technology, Mark Hainan sums up the data about contemporary communication technology we are critically reflecting on in terms of the good life. Digital ecosystems in which people spend large portions of their time, day and night, may be sapping one of the most important but undervalued abilities, attending sustainedly and calmly for lengthy periods of time to a single task or idea. 20% of U.S. consumers report checking their phones more than 50 times a day. 40% do so with 5 minutes of getting up. and 40% of US millennials note that they interact with their smartphones more than anything or anyone else on a given day. And while 60% of those surveyed American consumers say they try to limit smartphone use, only 30% report succeeding. Frequent interruptions through sounds, vibrations, notifications, and intrusive thoughts can make it harder to pay focused attention, and distractions can carry high cognitive costs associated with task switching. In fact, the mere presence of a mobile phone, even if one does not engage with it, has been found to reduce cognitive capacity and impair cognitive functioning on demanding tasks. I would add more still. Studies claim with billions of examples or data points that if we are representative of most people on the internet, we spend no more than 15 seconds on most of the thousands of web pages or articles we encounter each month. We stay longer with content that has images and videos. The bigger the image, the better. And while we like videos, not much more than 2 minutes tops, though we'll sometimes let them play in the background while we multitask. Our lives are demonstrably, cognitively accelerating, and we are often impatient. Are you feeling impatient right now? Are you reaching for your phone? It might not be my fault. Multitasking is one of the watchwords of the era. Cognitive scientists have shown with numerous studies that while not inherently bad, quote unquote, multitasking does point to a number of important questions for the economic and human workplace. Often renamed scientifically as task switching, based on constant tech-induced interruptions of human tasks. The more we task switch, the less efficient we are at completing more mentally challenging tasks. Think reading, doing homework about subjects like this. Same goes for long-term memory, learning, knowledge, creativity, and critical analytical reasoning skills. As the director of Brain Injury Research Lab at Northwestern University, Jordan Grafman says, the more you multitask, the less deliberative you become, the less able to think and reason about a problem. Of course, you need that brain power, that concentration, that self-control for the human, no less than the economic workplace. Much of my own work has been in synthesizing a wide range of empirical research and theory across disciplines, and then critically questioning its implications for thinking about human freedom, action, and democracy. Our ComTech behaviors I just described need to be contextualized with others, such as experimental research on cognitive bias and decision-making. In the last 2 years, international research teams have concluded through experiments on fake news and decision-making that while the spread of disinformation, rumors, conspiracy theories, lies is ancient, new communication technologies and their economic embeddedness have made the potential astronomically greater for frequent, instantaneous, and far-reaching circulation and effects of these communication forms. They are the stuff of amateur, professional, citizen, state, and corporate producers and recirculators. While associated for many of us with the global north, comparative research shows their research and impact to be actually global. As some of my African colleagues recently wrote, quote, with a fast-growing population of mobile users and the popularization of apps such as WhatsApp, misinformation has become much more pervasive across the African continent. Researchers have shown that perceived exposure to false information is high in some African countries, and yet citizens often share made-up news intentionally. They find two reasons for it: perceived civic duty and fun. While it is unclear how they impact outcomes of election yet, they can be shown to alter the previous attentional space of democratic public life, agendas, collective attention, and public opinion, as well as some policy outcomes. Confidence and accuracy in identifying original news reporting are in short supply. Common beliefs that bias and belief in fake news is specific to one political party or orientation and not to another is disproven by some studies, which find us all susceptible, students and professors alike. There's also evidence that in this communication ecology economy, we often decide emotionally without accompanying patient reasoning, which increases belief in our confusion about disinformation. This is not something we choose, I would add. Habits are not natural, they are formed, and technology helps create our habits, but we can learn new ones. In fact, those falling for fake news and other forms of disinformation, misinformation are, these researchers conclude, quote, lazy, not biased. Susceptibility to partisan fake news is better explained by lack of reasoning than by motivated reasoning. These skills of reflective, practical reasoning have a double use for you, students, the economic and the human workplace. I remind my students all the way through AUP, freshman to graduation, what many CEO surveys say of what they most look for in graduates: strong written and verbal communication skills, critical analytical thinking, creativity and problem solving. All of us are here to help you hone those skills. The threats to living sustainably, including harmoniously among fellow humans, are about getting and using not merely information, but acquiring knowledge. They're about learning to think and act ethically, responsibly, and they have huge implications for our ability to communicate effectively. And yes, all this requires time and attention, which are bound together. Time is a crucial element in this set of precious relations between technology, and some of us want to politicize that too. As the historian Melvin Kranzberg observed, technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. Looking at technology that way demystifies it. It is something designed by humans, and while wonderful, it is likely to reflect what is best and perhaps worst in its designers and the people they work for. We hear a lot of optimism about how AI and blockchain technology will solve problems like disinformation effects. Yet just yesterday, Facebook apologized when a, quote, British tabloid featuring black men saw an automated prompt from the social network that asked if they would like to keep seeing videos about primates. The prompt being one of Facebook's many artificial intelligence-powered features that push messages. Despite all the problems, there's a kind of almost historical dialectic of attention and technology at work. If you don't know what I mean, ask Professor Feltham about it. He'll be happy to explain. The same technologies that allowed Donald Trump's or Russian intelligence's disinformation to infiltrate networks and impact the U.S. election or perceptions of the public health crisis also facilitated #MeToo and Black Lives Matter, we should remember. The same technologies that allowed us to sign up for vaccinations recently through apps and show proof of them to try and help create safe public spaces free of the circulating virus are still being used to disinform people about the goals and uses of these vaccines. As I move towards a conclusion, let me put this all into historical context about you students' generation and your professors. In many ways, despite the life or death, extinction, and political issues involving the historical forms that freedom can take today, in these contexts, all this demands your immediate attention in academic study. I am actually envious of your generation and have more hope for it than I had for mine. As I learned about the world's problems and the challenges facing me as a college student, I often felt alone, with a few friends, and vastly outnumbered, without the advanced communication technologies to network us across a country or a world. My generation was described as the me generation, apolitical after the strong civic impulse of previous generations that had struggled for an end to colonialist wars, nuclear disarmament, the rights of women, people of multiple sexual orientations, social classes, and colors. Mine, social science said, retreated into individualist pursuits marketed to us by corporations happy to profit off our proud ideas of individual freedom, symbolized by the Nick Cage character in David Lynch's unsettling film Wild at Heart, whose caricatural refrain is, "This snakeskin jacket is a symbol of my individuality and my belief in personal freedom." And so many of us dyed our hair, practiced a personal sartorial politics, displaced our angst and lack of meaning into punk rock, grunge, the abstractions of math rock, and electronic dance music, to say nothing of the aesthetic styles of pastiche, loss of innocence, irony, and surface play that characterize postmodernism. There were important achievements that I shouldn't overlook on which you all will build, you students of my generation. Anti-discrimination laws and gay marriage laws, socially institutionalized values that also insist that racism, sexism, homophobia are not dominant values that will go unchallenged socially and legally. Nonetheless, our generations are different. It's called history. And it's perhaps empowering and inspiring for you to look at historical differences between generations and their dominant, not universally shared cultural values and habits. If my generation was dubbed the me generation, one report called yours the me is we generation. My generation was inward directed, some say selfish, and often cynical. Yours is critical, but idealistic and hopeful. Mine wanted, first of all, jobs that were more likely to make us rich, characterized by Gordon Gekko's principle in the film Wall Street, greed is good. Your generation is unwilling to choose between jobs that pay well and jobs that are meaningful and contributing to a better world. Generation Z sees diversity as an asset. Mine debated multiculturalism and a culture war. While your Gen Z faces an info glut, as Mark Andreevich calls it, you also value curiosity. You are inquisitive. So long as you're perseverant and patient, curiosity amidst info overload, Lord, that's an interesting slip, will likely be an asset in the economic and human workplace. In my generation, most places in the US, we risk social ostracization for openly questioning the inherent positive value of capitalism and democracy, as it is. The negative value of socialism as well. However, a majority of your generation in the US, Gen Z, and to some degree the generation before you, millennials, to the shock of the boomers and Gen Xers in power, holds negative views of the term capitalism. A survey this year also found almost half of your generation to have positive views of the term socialism. Finally, there's what your generation thinks about actually existing forms of democracy. Last year, Cambridge researchers surveyed over 5 million people aged 18 to 34 in over 160 countries, dubbed democracies. The result, quote, "This is the first generation in living memory to have a global majority who are dissatisfied with the way democracy works while in their 20s and 30s, said Dr. Roberta Foa, lead author of the report from Cambridge's Department of Politics and International Studies. Upon some reflection, I'm actually encouraged, not disappointed or frightened by this finding. I interpreted it to mean that your generation sees, as our resident historian Stephen Sawyers emphasized, that democracy's forms are historically struggled over, and your generation seems to understand very well that current democratic forms need some fine-tuning. But that also means that you need help from us to learn more about how we got here, but not just information, facts, which are nonetheless vital, but also ways of interpreting their context, their use, in order to act together with determination and passion, but also with a respect for critical thinking and reasoning. Despite our implications in bringing you to this precipice, we are committed to helping you in the time we have left to finding a way out. Technology and attention, science and critical thinking, I've covered a vast territory here, but I hope it hangs together. The world needs you, and you need us. You need math, science, strong written, verbal, and critical thinking, analytical and problem-solving skills that accompany the knowledge and skills specific to the subjects you will specialize in. We are eager, excited, and equipped to help. It is actually our mission at AUP. Now ask, what is your mission? I wish you an intellectually rich, socially exciting, and fun academic year and career at AUP, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks. It is also my honor to introduce Mitchell Rutledge, our student speaker, who's a senior in history, law, and society.
On the morning of June 25th, 2017, when I was 16 years old, I rushed out of my house with the goal of avoiding my parents as I made my way towards downtown Chicago for my first ever Pride Parade. I hopped on the Red Line with some friends and soon would be standing on Chicago's queerest street, Halsted. My mom already knew my sexuality, but I felt trapped in the middle of discovering what it meant to be gay. I was overwhelmed by the information overload of what one can find online when searching what it means to be queer. I found everything from support accounts on Instagram for queer youth to anti-queer hate speech advocating for conversion therapy and medication. Meanwhile, I was also surrounded in my daily life by physical communities that did not support queer culture or people. All of the opinions shared were a lot for a queer teen to discover, decipher, analyze, and make sense of. However, I found comfort in the research I could do, which helped me to find and participate in the diverse makeup of the queer community, learning that I was not alone and that what I felt was normal to some. The expansion of the internet as a place for humans to connect, share stories, and make an impact allowed me to explore the world even though I felt physically isolated. Little did I know, that my passion for queer culture and rights would lead me to Paris, where I'm researching the origins of America's queer culture pre-Stonewall. The Stonewall riots of 1969 are what many queer people consider to be our moment of revolt against the anti-homosexual structures put in place. However, in many cities across the world, including Paris, there was a vibrant queer scene prior to the Stonewall riots. The pre-Stonewall time is a time before online and digital technology ruled the way we interacted and recorded information. A time before someone like me could easily find support with the click of a few buttons. To imagine the realities of such a time for someone of my age, 21 years old, is difficult. Nonetheless, the same sort of questions around queer people were being asked. Should we give such a community equal rights and uphold a standard of ethics that protects those who are vulnerable to harassment? And now we are asking questions around the study of ethics regarding technology, regarding human rights, and how we can use technology to uplift the outcast and liberate the oppressed. Here at AUP, we are ideally situated to continue doing the hard work it takes to research and share what it means to use, design, and regulate technology in an ethical way, while also using it to enforce ethical standards. Of course, this work of practicing ethical interactions is not easily done. In fact, we are at a disadvantage. We are physically coming back together for the first time in a year and a half. Some of us are new, while others are old-timers. Some of us had our vulnerabilities spotlighted during periods of our online life, as the online space and digital technology are not equitable in their access or usage. And now we have the challenge of discovering what it means as an AUP community to uphold ethics and ascribe to being a global community, both in person and with the technology at hand. By this I mean, it is our task to encounter the other and negotiate differences so that we may, as a community, find common ground in what we stand for. We must discern what it means to be a true global community and what aspects bind us together off of AUP's campus. As AUP approaches its 60th year, it is our job to question what we as a community want to harbor as our ethical views and standards. And once we identify and define them, we must uphold them, and we must incorporate them into our education. This past year and a half has been hard for all of us. Thankfully, we have been able to stay connected with the amazing technology we have at our fingertips. But as we were comprehensively exploring for the first time how technology could benefit us in our daily interactions on a whole new level, we lost part of the richness of what our in-person conversations provide. That is why this coming year, my one piece of advice for everyone is to lead with listening ears and a curiosity to expand our knowledge, followed by action with a caring heart. As we explore what it means to come back to in-person interactions, community building, and the role technology will now play in our lives, we must approach the conversation with a sense of understanding that everyone is coming from a different place of wellness after 18 months of online living. Technology has helped us in ways this past year and a half that many from the 1960s never could have imagined. And technology will continue to develop. We must continue asking the questions of what technology can do for us as humans to progress as a community here at AUP and as a society in general. We must discover what it means to be part of a global community and what our ethics and standards are. We must have a willingness to listen and truly consider each perspective that contributes to building our community in a positive direction. What technology did for me as a young, queer boy in small, isolated Midwest towns is just the beginning. Technology has the power to do so much more for us if we harness that power. But first, we must establish what it is we want to do with that power. Personally, I want to liberate the oppressed and uplift the outcast. This is an exciting year to be working on that here at the American University of Paris. Thank you. It is also my honor to hand the podium back over to President Schenck.
Thank you, Mitchell and Jayson, for opening the subject of technology, of activism, and of the human future, which is actually going to be the subject of a presidential lecture series this year that will be conducted online and that will go throughout the year. Without really fully conferring, once again, AUP synergies happened. Thanks for your addresses. Thank you to everybody for being here. Welcome to the 60th Convocation of the American University of Paris in this historic place where we were founded. Go forth, all of our students, as our emissaries, and enjoy every moment of your first year. Thank you.